What is going on, everyone? It's your guy Cole Jackson back here on Road Graders, brought to you today by the Russell Street Report. We are going to be diving into taking a look at what a mock draft looks like if the Ravens go their usual route and go best player available. Now, looking at BPA, we know that it's always going to be a bit of a mix of need in there, obviously. If a quarterback is available at 27, the Baltimore Ravens will not be picking a quarterback. So, the true BPA thing is always, it's got to have that need mixed in there. So we're going to kind of use that principle as we go through here. I'm not just going to go based off of the big board consensus on PFF's website because I just don't really agree with it. But I am going to be looking past some of the immediate team needs based on how this draft sets up, especially in the first 3 rounds. We'll see a little bit later on where the Ravens will adjust and start hitting on some of their needs, even if there's more reaches. But I just want to give you guys a look at what it would look like to see a true BPA draft. So let's get in here and roll. You guys know how I do these. PFF mock draft, all this normal settings. So as pick 27 rolls up here, the big board that we get looks a lot like this. And this is usually how it's been looking in terms of having guys like Kelvin Banks, James Pierce, Siobhan Ravel, Gray Zabel. So there's some picks here that I might look at, guys like Harmon, Zabel, guys that I really like. But if you're going with the true BPA approach, I personally think it's between Kelvin Banks and James Pierce Jr. Obviously, you can see the rank there based on PFF, but that's also, I've seen Kelvin Banks going pretty consistently earlier. So we're going to go with Banks there. So the Ravens go out, they pick a tackle early based on BPA. Banks can come in and slot in at guard right away and kind of compete with Voorhees and Falele. So I think that gives you a really good look at what it could look like. And this is really what I want to, the second round set up here well, because there's been a report from Ian Rappaport this morning that the linebacker out of UCLA, Carson Schwesinger, has been linked to the Ravens. Between him and Demetrius Knight, I think that is your typical best player available scenario. Looking at those linebackers, it's not necessarily a high need position. I don't even have it in the Ravens top 5, but I do think it is a good example of a BPA look between Knight and Schwesinger. I'm not going to say that name. I'm going to butcher that name. So I actually think Knight is a better player. So going linebacker at 59 is something that I haven't been doing. But if the Ravens go with their true BPA approach in terms of going after positions of need immediately, you kind of come away with that as your first 2 picks, because I do think Demetrius Knight is that BPA there. I think that, mirrors a lot of the big boards that would exist out there right now. And so I think that's a good look at how the draft can change by really focusing on getting the best player available. So we still have needs at interior, defensive line, edge, all that good stuff, but there just wasn't kind of the top player there when we picked. Obviously, James Pierce Jr. versus Kelvin Banks. There's a real debate to have there. So I'm sure that'll be in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. So as we're looking here, the name that really pops to me, and it would be surprising, but like a guy like Kyle Williams has shot up. Some people saying he's, a late to early 3rd round pick. So there's a guy that, again, the Ravens don't really need a wide receiver right now, but based on BPA, they could go out and add to that wide receiver room. DeAndre Hopkins is older. They need contracts for Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. So, this draft has kind of come away with, we're really not hitting on positions of need here, right? Like linebacker, wide receiver, they need to probably address eventually, but not necessarily in the first 3 rounds. So this is really where BPA can kind of take over, but we are getting very solid contributors to provide to this team. I'm going to go out and get Billy Bowman here. I just think that that's a high-level safety that will be able to come in and complement the safety room they have right now. They're back up right away. Those 2 picks with the comp pick. We're going to add to the O-line room again and grab Crenshaw Dixon out of Florida. So we've really hit hard here in the trenches and on offense, as well as, addressing the 2nd and 3rd level of the defense. What's really missing here is the defensive line. That seems to be, and that's where the Ravens have historically adjusted to that. So they've kind of hit their BPA needs, and then midway through the draft, it's like, okay, we need to start actually bringing in guys to address some of our needs. So as you can see, you go through, and this is what can happen. So there's not really edge rushers left that'll excite you. Even the interior defensive line is starting to get a little bit watered down. So I am going to go and grab Tonka Hemingway just to get some bodies in here that I think can contribute right away. I'll probably go right back and grab. So this is a good look at where we did get the best players available early in the draft, but they weren't at positions of need. And now you're trying to hit those positions of need. So this is really where I find it gets so interesting with this approach in the draft. We'll grab Robert Longerbeam here. So as you can see, we got Banks Jr., Demetrius Knight, Kyle Williams, Billy Bowman Jr., Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. We also got Tonka Hemingway and Robert Longerbeam. We still have 4 picks to kind of round out this draft. Still some pieces missing, I think. One position they're going to have to really get in here is an edge rusher, but it really ain't looking good there. We're going to probably wait on that. I think they also need more corner help. They need to get some younger bodies in here. I think going out and grabbing a guy like Jason Marshall Jr. out of Florida, really good scheme fit for what the Ravens like to do. We'll also grab Ty Robinson to add into that interior defensive line group. But it starts to feel a little panicky at this point. We'll also add Jackson Slater, a guy that I think can contribute right away. So, we've addressed, I think, the immediate needs now a little bit better. The biggest piece missing going into our last pick is the edge rusher spot. And that's a good look at kind of what you sacrifice by going with those BPA picks earlier. A good example is, going with an edge rusher at 59 versus a linebacker, and then you take the linebacker later. But it just becomes, do you think Demetrius Knight is going to be a better player than the edge rushers that were available in round 2? So we'll add Ethan Downs to this group and round out our draft. So this worked out the way I wanted it to, because those picks in the second round, even Kelvin Banks, if you don't think guard is a big enough a need to go out and pick up a guy like Kelvin Banks, you can see, decent grades there. Kyle Williams is low just in the PFF thing, but he has moved up. So, going linebacker and wide receiver there, that's really the result I wanted to kind of show of what BPA really looks like, especially with a guy like Kyle Williams, who he's shot up boards, a lot of big interest. I think when Brugler's Beast comes out on Wednesday, you guys will see his name up a lot higher than you've seen him. But like I said, you sacrifice your ability to address some of those more immediate needs. So especially interior defensive line and edge rusher, the board just didn't kind of fall that way. Again, you can argue Banks versus James Pierce Jr. I completely get it. But this is a good look at what a mock draft could look like if the Ravens prioritize that true BPA look. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think, not only about this strategy, but this overall draft. Would you be upset with this, that it didn't, hit some of the bigger needs more early and more immediately? And obviously hit that like button, hit subscribe if you guys are new here. We'll be giving you guys tons of draft content. We're a couple weeks out, looking forward to it. That's all I have for you guys. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.